Imagine walking into your local Walmart and picking up a gallon of milk. The price tag says $4. Your neighbor walks in 10 minutes later, picks up the exact same milk from the exact same shelf, and pays $6. Same product, same store, same day. But two completely different prices. This isn't some dystopian future scenario. This is happening right now, and it's about to get much worse. Walmart has just announced plans to install electronic price tags in all 2,300 of its stores by 2026. And what this really means is that the price you pay for everything could change from one second to the next based on who you are, where you live, and what kind of phone you're holding in your hand. For decades, pricing was straightforward. A store would print a price tag, stick it on a product, and that was the price everyone paid. Sure, there were sales and promotions, but fundamentally, if you and I walked into the same store on the same day, we'd pay the same amount for the same item. Basic principle of fairness is now being systematically dismantled by artificial intelligence, and most people have no idea it's even happening. These aren't just innocent technological upgrades to make life easier for store managers. These are sophisticated systems designed to extract maximum profit from every single transaction by analyzing who you are and how much they think they can make you pay. The technology behind this transformation is deceptively simple on the surface, but incredibly complex underneath. Electronic shelf labels look like ordinary price tags, but they're connected to a central system that can update thousands of prices across an entire store in seconds. The retailer no longer needs to send workers down every aisle with a pricing gun to change tags manually. Everything happens instantly and automatically. But here's where it gets disturbing. These systems aren't just changing prices for operational convenience. They're being integrated with artificial intelligence algorithms that analyze massive amounts of data about shoppers, neighborhoods, weather patterns, competition, inventory levels, and dozens of other variables to determine the optimal price at any given moment for any given customer. This practice is called dynamic pricing, and while it's been used in certain industries for years, airlines and hotels have been doing it forever. Its expansion into everyday grocery shopping and retail represents a fundamental shift in how commerce works. When you book a flight, you understand that prices fluctuate based on demand, timing, and availability. You accept that risk because you're planning ahead for a specific trip. But when you're buying bread and eggs for your family, you're not engaged in some strategic purchasing game. You're trying to feed yourself and your loved ones. Applying airline pricing psychology to basic necessities crosses a line that many people find deeply uncomfortable. The artificial intelligence systems powering these pricing decisions are trained on enormous data sets that include not just store, inventory, and competitor prices, but also highly personal information about shoppers. They know what neighborhood you live in and what the average income level is in that area. They know what kind of device you're using to browse or shop, whether it's the latest iPhone or an older Android model. They track your browsing behavior, how long you spend looking at certain products, whether you compare prices, whether you put items in your cart and then remove them. All of this data feeds into algorithms that build a profile of you as a consumer and determine your price sensitivity, essentially how much you're willing to pay before you walk away. Here's a concrete example of how this works in practice. Let's say you live in an affluent neighborhood. You're browsing the store's app on a brand new smartphone, and your purchase history shows you tend to buy premium brands without much price comparison. The AI system flags you as a high-value customer with low price sensitivity. When you walk into the store or shop online, the prices you see might be 5 to 15% higher than what someone else sees for the exact same products. Meanwhile, someone shopping from a lower income area on an older device who frequently uses coupons and compares prices might see lower prices because the system knows they're more likely to abandon their purchase if prices are too high. The goal isn't fairness or consistency. The goal is maximizing revenue by charging each person the maximum amount they're individually willing to pay. This isn't theoretical speculation. Evidence of this kind of differential pricing has been documented across multiple platforms and retailers. Studies have shown that users in wealthy zip codes are quoted higher prices for identical products on major People using Apple devices have been charged more than people using Android devices for the same services. And now, with physical stores adopting these electronic pricing systems, The same practices are moving offline into the places where most people still do the majority of their shopping. What was once limited to the digital realm is now becoming the standard for brick-and-mortar retail. The companies implementing these systems defend them vigorously. They argue that dynamic pricing is simply a form of efficiency and optimization. They say it helps them manage inventory more effectively, respond to competition in real time, and offer targeted promotions to customers who need them most. They frame it as a win-win scenario where stores increase profits while customers get personalized deals. But this framing conveniently ignores the fundamental inequality built into the system. When a wealthy person and a poor person walk into the same store, and the wealthy person is charged more because they can afford it, that might sound like progressive taxation. But when the poor person is charged more because the algorithm knows they're desperate and have fewer alternatives, that's exploitation. And that's exactly what happens in many cases. Low-income neighborhoods often have fewer grocery stores and shopping options, creating what's known as a food desert. When people in these areas have limited choices, they have less ability to shop around for better prices. The AI systems recognize this lack of alternatives and can actually charge higher prices to these vulnerable populations because they know these shoppers have no other options. The supposed efficiency of dynamic pricing becomes a mechanism for extracting more money from people who can least afford it. This inverts any notion of fairness and turns pricing into a tool of economic oppression rather than market efficiency. The ethical implications extend beyond just individual unfairness. When pricing becomes entirely personalized and opaque, it undermines the basic transparency that markets need to function properly. In a traditional market, price competition works because everyone can see what different stores are charging and make informed decisions. But when every person sees different prices, and those prices change constantly based on secret algorithms, there's no real price transparency anymore. You can't comparison shop effectively if you don't know whether the price you're seeing is the real price or just the price the algorithm thinks you'll pay. This erosion of transparency gives enormous power to the retailers who control these systems, while leaving consumers increasingly confused and powerless. There's also the problem of discrimination, both intentional and unintentional. Even if a company doesn't explicitly program its AI to discriminate based on race, gender, or other protected characteristics, these algorithms can easily develop discriminatory patterns on their own. If certain neighborhoods are predominantly inhabited by specific ethnic or racial groups, and the algorithm charges higher prices in those neighborhoods based on other factors like income data or shopping patterns, the result is still discriminatory pricing that disproportionately affects certain communities. The complexity and opacity of these AI systems make it extremely difficult to detect or prove discrimination, which means companies can engage in practices that would be clearly illegal if done explicitly. But they can hide behind the excuse that the algorithm made those decisions automatically. Several lawmakers and consumer advocacy groups have begun pushing back against these practices. Some have called for regulations that would require retailers to charge the same price to all customers in the same store at the same time. Others have proposed transparency requirements that would force companies to disclose when they're using dynamic pricing and what factors influence those prices. But so far, most of these proposals have gone nowhere. The retail industry has powerful lobbying groups, and they've been effective at arguing that restrictions on pricing would stifle innovation and harm consumers by preventing stores from offering personalized discounts. This is a classic case of corporate spin where exploitation is rebranded as customer service. What makes this situation particularly insidious is how invisible it is to most shoppers. When you walk into a store and see a price on a shelf, you naturally assume that's the price everyone pays. You have no reason to suspect that your neighbor might be paying something different, or that the price might change the moment you walk away. The digital nature of these systems makes them inherently deceptive because they maintain the appearance of traditional fixed pricing, while actually implementing highly variable personalized pricing behind the scenes. Most people have no idea this is happening, which means they can't make informed decisions about where to shop or how to protect themselves from unfair pricing. So, what can you actually do about this as a consumer? First, be aware that it's happening. Understand that the prices you see, especially in stores with electronic shelf labels or on e-commerce platforms, may not be the prices other people see. Second, use tools and techniques to make yourself less trackable. Shop in incognito mode online. Use price comparison tools, clear your cookies regularly, and consider using different devices or accounts to check prices. Third, shop around more deliberately. Don't assume the first price you see is the best or fairest price. Check multiple stores, both online and offline, and look for patterns. Fourth, support retailers that commit to transparent, non-discriminatory pricing. Vote with your wallet by choosing businesses that treat all customers fairly. And fifth, contact your elected representatives and demand regulations that protect consumers from algorithmic price discrimination. The spread of AI-driven dynamic pricing represents a fundamental shift in the relationship between buyers and sellers. What used to be a relatively straightforward transaction based on mutual agreement and transparent information is becoming an information game where sophisticated algorithms exploit detailed personal data to extract maximum profit from each individual. This isn't progress. This isn't innovation. This is the deployment of advanced technology to make an already unequal economic system even more unfair. And unless we push back collectively, this will become the new normal for all retail. From groceries to gas to every other product we need to live. The question we need to ask ourselves is what kind of economy we want to live in. Do we want a system where the price of bread depends on an algorithm's assessment of your personal wealth and desperation? Do we want a marketplace where transparency and fairness are sacrificed in the name of corporate profit maximization? Or do we want to insist that some basic principles of fairness and equal treatment should apply even in an age of artificial intelligence and big data? These are choices we can make collectively through regulations, consumer activism, and by demanding better from the companies we give our money to. The technology itself isn't inherently evil, but the way it's being deployed right now serves corporate interests at the expense of everyone else. We have the power to demand something different, but only if we recognize what's happening and decide to fight back. The future of fair pricing depends on whether we're willing to take that stand today. What do you think about AI changing prices based on who you are? Have you noticed different prices for the same items? Share your experiences in the comments below. Hit subscribe to stay informed about how technology is reshaping our economy, and let's build a community that demands fairness in the marketplace.